I talk a lot about what's wrong with the education system. And one of the things that I think is wrong with the education system, I'm interested in cryptocurrencies, but also the blockchain, which is really a tool to decentralize things. And Joel Salatin, my first mentor, said we have the same education system. If you got in a time machine, went back to pre-Germany, Otto von Bismarck, late 1800s, they were teaching a system that created robots and created soldiers, and that's what they wanted, people who obeyed. Everything else has gotten better. You don't travel by steam engine anymore. You don't put leeches on your body if you're sick. We have penicillin, we have all, but we haven't, if you go in the classroom, it basically hasn't changed. And part of the problem, Joel Salatin told me, is a few bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. decide what you need to learn. Well, do we need to only learn what the hypotenuse of a triangle is in the year 2018? What about learning how to use Excel?
Yeah,
learning how to buy a house? What's your take on education and what's wrong in America?
So I think that the biggest thing that's wrong with education, I agree, is a certain level of centralized control. I skipped a couple of grades when I was growing up because the system couldn't handle me being in a particular grade, so I had to end around the system. And it was only because I had a principal who didn't care about ending around the system I was able to do that. I was in public school when I was in third grade, and she said, you're beyond this, skip third grade. But we had to game the system basically in order to do that. Yeah, I think that there's no reason why education has to be done the way that it's done. I mean, everything is so decentralized now. We should be able to personalize educational programs to nearly every kid. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it when the kid's 5. Right? When the kid's 5, you still have to learn how to read, you still have to do basic arithmetic. But by the time the kid's 11 or 12 years old, the idea that everybody has to be learning exactly the same thing is really stupid. And then the idea that everybody has to go to college, regardless of what your major is also incredibly stupid, right? Like, my wife had to go to college because she's a doctor, so she was actually studying actual things in college. I had a poli-sci major at UCLA. You're telling me I couldn't have gone straight to Harvard Law School and studied law? Like, I needed those 4 years of learning nonsense in poli-sci and just going into debt in order to do that. Like, the idea that...
So in hindsight, would you have skipped, and gone straight to law school?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I think that law school should be skipped and you should go straight to an apprenticeship. I think that actually is the way people used to get jobs. I mean, once you have a job, the way people do their jobs is they actually go in and work at a job for a year, and that's how you get good at the job. No one is qualified coming out of college for anything, right? I mean,
I agree with that.
You're pretty much useless coming out of college.
Yes. So far, I have all the people I've hired in over 10 decade plus, never hired someone competent on day one. Ever.
Exactly.
And I wasn't competent on day one. Humans learn. I just read an interesting piece of research. It says, one of the problems in schools is you're primarily being taught by what they call the tutorial method, like somebody preaching at you, Matt. And they said what people learn better through is some mixture of kinesthetic learning and kind of case studies. So like bringing it, like you said, personalized down to that student's learning methodology, not just preaching at them. And the way we do it, fascinatingly enough, is only 15% of people learn the way that all school classrooms are set up right now. So we're basically doing something that we know fails for 85% of people. It's mind-blowing.
I mean, I think in what you were saying originally is exactly right. If you look at how the educational system was structured, it was structured to make workers for factories. It was structured to make workers for particular businesses. And that's not what we're into anymore. I mean, since I graduated from law school, from 2007 to 2018, I've been in 6, 7 different jobs. Right, the days when you were at one job forever are just gone.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents working at a place for 50 years. No one's ever going to work in a place for 50 years. First of all, the company that you're at can be around for 50 years in all likelihood. Right? The turnover on the Fortune 500 is incredibly high. So you better be constantly increasing your skill set and learning new skills. And I mean, you're great about this, but I mean, learning is a lifelong process. And if you're not deepening that, then you become useless in the marketplace pretty quickly.